Hello Courserians, it's week 4 and this week I'm going to be talking a little bit about an introduction to compressors and how they work. What I've done is I've put a compressor in this output strip here in this channel right here. Right now it's bypassed, as you can see. And to show what's going on, I've put a level meter both ahead of the compressor as well as just after the compressor, so we can do a little bit of comparison. So the piece of music, I'll just play a very short cut here. As you can see, it's got a heavy bass and a lot of electronic sounds. And what I want to try to do is even the whole thing out using compression. Now, how does that work? Well, in the compressor, you'll see that there's a function here that moves between the input signal, which is represented across the bottom, where full scale is over here, and the output is here, so 0 dB at the top. And right now with this ratio set as high as 30:1, it means that after this point here, which we might call the knee in the curve, where it's kind of got a bit of a bend, after this point, the ratio between what comes in and what goes out has got a fair degree of compression. In fact, almost to the point of being a limiter. So that means that something which is, say, minus 10 dB as a signal input is coming out at about minus 15, roughly. And where this knee sits is controlled by this threshold. So the threshold says where in the circuitry that does analysis of the signal coming in is the circuitry going to start to look for compressing the signal. And all the way down here, I can have it compress, well, pretty much as low as you want. So what you want to try to do is musically find a place where this makes some sense, and we'll take a look at that in a sec. The knee here is a function of how smooth or sharp that is. As you can see right now, you've got a fairly sharp line. This slope comes up to this point, and then it bends. And we can soften that off. So I like to leave that around 0.7. Now, these other controls here, attack and release, have to do with how quickly does the circuitry react, which reduces the incoming signal. So for example, if the attack is set to 0, then as soon as something comes in which is above this knee, the circuitry in the compressor is going to try to reduce it. Whereas otherwise, if I put this up to, say, 17.5, it's going to allow sound information to come through for about 17.5 milliseconds before it starts to clamp down and reduce the signal after that. Once it's reduced, then as the signal which is above this threshold here, which is right now minus 10 dB, once the signal goes below that threshold again, it will hang on to the amount of reduction for about another 23 milliseconds right now with the way the release is set up. I could increase that or hold on to it now for 180 milliseconds, or I could bring that right back down to 5 milliseconds as a minimum. So let's put the signal through this and just show what happens. So you can see with it bypassed, both of the input and output are the same, but as I take the bypass off and now turn the compressor in place, you can see that based on where the threshold is, it's starting to cut some of the signal. And in fact, I can bring that threshold down and it will cut more and more, because now anything which is over minus 17 dB is going to be affected by this very heavy curve here. So there you have it. As the basics, there's a lot to do with compressors, and I really recommend that you take a look at other tutorials as well, because there's a lot to cover and a lot to really understand, and there's a lot to play with as well with regards to how does it affect your music. So again, we talked about the need for compression, how compression affects things which are over this threshold value. The degree of compression once you're past the threshold is controlled by this ratio, everything from no compression to pretty heavy compression, 30:1. The attack being how quickly it reacts, and the release being how long after the signal drops below the threshold does it take before the compressor opens up again and there's no longer any kind of reduction in signal. So hope that helps you guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Keep making music. Bye-bye.